All right, well, welcome to our new podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with,
Jack Coward.
and we don't have a name for this yet, so I'm just going to be upfront. We'll probably figure that out eventually, but basically, this is going to be a sports podcast. We'll mainly probably talk about like football, basketball. I do like combat sports, so we'll probably dabble in that a little bit at a certain point, but it's just whatever we're interested in, that's what we're going to talk about. And for this week, I'm thinking we just had was it the conference games happen for the NFL playoffs?
Divisional round, yeah.
Yeah, divisional round. So yeah, it's next week. Um, and I wanted to talk about the Bucks and the Saints. Because it was a big storyline game for Brady and Breeze. Two 42-year-olds playing football, which is kind of insane, and they're the leaders of their teams. And I have some thoughts on Brady, and I have some thoughts on Breeze, and they're very different. So I don't know. What do you think about that game?
I think that game was in some ways not fun to watch, and in other ways very fun to watch. The big thing for me is Drew Brees and him not looking so great, because Drew Brees was my first favorite quarterback, really. When I was first getting into football, he was the guy that stood out to me. And since he's been there for so long, like I have that sentimental attachment to him. So when the report came out before the game that this was his last year and he's definitely done, I was kind of sad about it because I already had the feeling that the Bucks were going to win.
Wow.
And the way that Breeze performed during this game kind of showed us that it was time for him to hang it up.
It was time, yeah. And I had so at work, one of my friends, he's a big Saints fan, and his thing was like, I was like, yeah, Breeze he looked kind of old, that game. It's sad to say because Breeze is one of the greats, even though he isn't, I feel like generally looked at as one of the greats. I feel like because he has crazy numbers, it's ridiculous, but I think because his lack of like Super Bowl wins, he only has one,
Right, yeah.
and they kind of downgrade him, which is kind of interesting though because they don't downgrade Aaron Rodgers, and he only has one as well.
Yeah,
However,
I mean, like in terms of counting stats, Drew Brees holds tons of records.
yes, he's I mean, sadly, probably a lot of those Brady's gonna just break next season as long
true.
as he stays healthy. But regardless, like he'll be number two, and the number two they're so much higher than Peyton Manning, who's right behind them. So
Right, yeah.
longevity, they've been great. But watching Drew Brees that game, it just looked like he couldn't pass it past 20 yards.
He couldn't, yeah.
And it's sad, but basically what I was getting back to was what I wanted to say was that he was saying, well, maybe he also was just never completely healed from those injuries he had, and that is a possibility, I will say. However, even before those injuries, I think his arm just wasn't the same.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think he had spurts of showing you that he still had it, but spurts isn't enough to be like a Super Bowl contending quarterback, and that's what Drew Brees wants to be.
Right. That's been the chatter for years. Like looking at Brees' numbers, he hasn't really been throwing the deep ball that much for, I don't know, 3 years. And I remember during the offseason, he sort of came out in the media and he was like, guys, my deep ball numbers maybe aren't that great, but I still have the arm. And then he showed this year that
It wasn't there.
maybe the stats guys were right after all.
See, I think in the past, okay, so I think literally last season, I think he still had a little bit left in him, because he did throw it when he needed to, like
Yeah.
when he needed to, and it did work a lot of the times. However, this season he couldn't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe there was very rare occasions, and towards the end of the season, especially after he had that injury, there was no chance. And the thing is that is really telling is that they would bring in other quarterbacks to throw the deep ball. Like when they wanted to go deep, he wouldn't be on the field,
Right.
and they would never have done that to him 5 years ago.
And props to Sean Payton for that, because most coaches don't have that decision making in them to say to their guy like, "Hey, you can't make this throw."
Yeah.
So at least Payton knew what he was doing in that regard.
It says a lot about their relationship for sure, because Peyton also, you're right, it is difficult to make that call. But it also says a lot for Breeze for having the self-awareness and trusting Sean Payton and not getting hurt.
Right.
He probably was hurt a little bit, but not getting hurt enough to have it affect the team chemistry, and him just always wanting what's best for the team. And that's something that I think anyone could agree with when it comes to thinking about Drew Brees. But it's gonna be weird without him. I didn't actually see that report that it was for sure his last game
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, I just missed it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it happened like that morning.
Like, oh well, that's probably why I missed it because I did have a little bit of a busy day, so I had to rewatch the games later on, and all I
Mhm.
remember is hearing Joe Buck just constantly say that
It's Breeze's last year.
it's Breeze's last year. This is his last game. This is potentially his last play. All this stuff. I was watching it over with my dad, and he's like, "Man, he's retiring him before the game even ends." I think he missed it too, and I was like, "Oh man, this is nuts." Joe Buck is really like being like, Drew Brees is for sure gonna retire right now, or at least saying that he should in some one way or another.
It is
Um,
pretty sad that Breeze's last pass was an interception.
Yeah,
Like that doesn't feel good as a Breeze fan, but
and he threw 3 of them.
that
that
just
game.
means it's time.
3 of them. That's not something Drew Brees does.
Right.
Especially not in the playoffs. And I feel bad. However, Tom Brady though, he still has it.
It is not Tom Brady's time.
It's insane. It's insane, right? Because it's like every season they go, he can't do it again. He can't do it again. And he played even better this season than he did the season before. And obviously he has way more weapons, which is definitely going to help. But so there was this one pass. Let me see if I can remember who he passed it to. But it was to this like no-name receiver at the end of the game. You remember what I'm talking about?
Scotty Miller?
Scotty Miller, yeah. It looked like when I initially saw the pass that he underthrew the ball and Scotty Miller had to stop.
Right.
But then I realized where the safety was, and Brady literally threw like a floater to fall and make Scotty Miller. He had to slow down right in between, perfectly in between the corner and the safety. And I was like, he still has everything. He still has it all.
It has been absolutely wild to me watching Brady in this Tampa system because I don't want to say I've been a Brady hater because you can't like
You could be Brady.
you can't say Brady's not good like with his track record.
Oh yeah,
but
he's great. You can't deny that.
I have been saying for the past 2 years before this one that Brady doesn't have the deep ball anymore because he wasn't doing it that much. In this Tampa system though, the deep ball is a really important part of it, and Brady's not failing him there.
It's crazy because that's a big part of Bruce Arians' system, so Brady had to do it. I think it's not Brady's favorite thing to do. I think he likes to just like go down the field on you, like little short passes, boom, boom, real fast, And the good thing is that he can still do that. But now I think that they're forcing him to throw the deep ball a little bit more. I think it also sometimes opens up the offense a little bit more as well, because LeGarrette Blount. He's the no, sorry, I'm not
Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette,
Yeah.
sorry.
They do look kind of similar.
But Leonard Fournette, he can do a lot of things, right? But he's not that fast anymore,
Right.
But he still gets yards. And I'm not gonna just say, oh well, he's playing amazing, which I feel like a lot of the announcers always talk about. Like, no, I think it's just there's a lot of openings for him because Tom Brady is opening up the offense. Their offensive line is also really good. It's not like he's a running back that's gonna make people miss.
The Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are constructed really well. I think signing Leonard Fournette and Antonio Brown, it's tough to call them underrated because everybody knows that they're talented players.
Yes,
but they weren't making huge waves during the regular season because Ronald Jones is technically the guy. But Leonard Fournette is a playoff running back and Antonio Brown is a playoff wide receiver. I feel like in the playoffs, you want those veterans that you trust more than you want a Ronald Jones or a Chris Godwin who maybe hasn't earned it yet.
Say what you want, I guess, about Antonio Brown because I don't think I'm just going to say, like, obviously he's done a lot of bad things, and stuff like that. However, he's a really good football player.
He very much is.
And at the end of the day, like Tom Brady is making use of that. He makes use of all of his players, all of his teammates. It's funny saying his players like he owns the team, but that's what it feels like when Tom Brady is on a team. It's like, well, he's the man. He walks into the room and it's like, well, he's the leader of this team, and you got to trust him. And why wouldn't you? I mean, he's won 6 Super Bowls. He could potentially win his 7th. Imagine if Tom Brady wins 7 Super Bowls.
I wouldn't know what to say.
It's like there's no argument then. None. No argument. Like, you can't argue 7. And I know because everyone's like, oh, well, what about the whole, like, in the past, like, what if Brady wasn't with Belichick? What if Belichick wasn't with Brady? And obviously the team is not that great in New England with Belichick right now. However, I will say Belichick has full control of who they get in that organization.
He does.
So you could you have to put some of the blame on him then too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say well, it's not his fault. The team's like that because he is not just the coach. Like, he also is I think the head of football operations over there. You know.
My take on Belichick is he is an elite coach, definitely one of the best of all time, but he is not a good general manager because the thing about football is dynasties usually come in cycles. Like, there's a 3-year window, maybe a 4-year window for a team to do well. And Belichick was able to sort of connect a few of those together with maybe a gap year in between. But I think time just ran out for him in terms of his general managing skills, because the reason Brady left the team, in my opinion, is that it just wasn't good enough anymore.
There wasn't, and not even, well, he didn't, okay, but he didn't really leave, though. It's good that he left, but that's what they say, but they told him, hey, you gotta walk. You gotta walk.
Because from Belichick's perspective, he's not great at getting a talented roster, but he is elite at getting more out of his
out of his players
than most other coaches would.
So the way I see I see Belichick is like in terms of like a basketball team is the Spurs, except Tom Brady was like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker all at the same time. Like, he was all of them. You know what I mean? And like everyone else on those Spurs teams, they played their part. You know what I mean? They all were very helpful in their dynasty. But
Tom Brady was the dynasty.
Tom Brady was the dynasty, and because he was the only part that lasted the whole time, the only part really, and so and he had the biggest effect out of any of the players in that whole time. You can't argue that because he was there the whole time, and so they had a good run. But Tom, I think, is trying to. I don't know if he'll win the Super Bowl, but if he does, I was never a big Tom Brady fan. But if he does, I would think it'd be a fun thing to watch, because you know what? It is fun to see someone like that's kind of he's still producing, and he really shouldn't be able to.
Right.
And that's where I'm finding it to be very interesting. It's kind of like watching LeBron James a little bit now.
It is.
Where you don't know how much longer you have of him. But it is fun to watch because he's still doing what LeBron James does, and I think Tom Brady, obviously the athleticism is very different. But in terms of being dominant in their sport, they're both very dominant.
Yeah, I mean, like, Brady is 43 and a half.
Oh, he's 43. Okay.
And he is the oldest quarterback to play this well this late into his life, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there have been quarterbacks in the past who have played at an older age, but not as the guy, not as the same level that Brady is still capable of. So it's mind blowing. Like I feel like we take great times and we just go, oh, it's frustrating to watch Tom Brady win all the time, which it is, but it's also just incredible to watch.
Yeah. Well, we do, but the crazy thing is, like, we do take it for granted because the drop off, it happens so steep. Like when it's your time, because I mean, Drew Brees, going back to Drew Brees, he wasn't that bad last season. You could definitely see it was coming, and then this season it was like it happened.
Right.
It's there, and I feel like that will happen with Tom Brady at some point. And that's why it's always the take every offseason to say Tom Brady doesn't have it anymore, and one day you're bound to be right. Yep. Because Father Time always wins, and I'm gonna be sad, when that day does come, just because Patrick Mahomes is great. I love watching Patrick Mahomes play, but we grew up watching Tom Brady, and
I was just about to say that we've grown up on all these guys that are starting to retire. Like Roethlisberger probably only has a couple more years. Rivers might be done. Yeah, and I
would say Rivers isn't too. We didn't talk about him, but his arm looks done.
I noticed this duality in the playoffs, the two conferences. And the AFC, was full of these young guys. They had
Yeah.
Mahomes, they had Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and it was. I just thought that was very cool to see the difference in ages
It is cool.
with the rise of this new age of quarterbacks.
It is cool, but I was also when I saw that I was like, dang, it's also sad because I loved I like I miss watching Peyton Manning play. You know what I mean? Even though how stiff he would be turning on the field, you know what I mean? I miss that era of football. I think this era of football is a little bit more fun to watch for most fans because the offense just goes crazy every week for so
Right.
many teams and teams that you feel like aren't that good. Just sometimes they just feel it and then they could score 30 points, and not the Bears so much, but other teams for sure. Not the Bears so much.
I hear that.
But I miss that era of football, but it is nice because this one is also pretty fun to watch too. And like I said, I love watching Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's literally insane the fear he instills into defenses. Like they're so afraid they could get a sack off on him so many times, but they're so afraid of him completing a pass that's like that just scores a point. It scores a touchdown. Like they're afraid of the touchdown so much that they could sack him right now and make sure the touchdown doesn't happen. And so they jump. They go for the pump. They don't know if they want to run at him. I'm thinking, and every time I think to myself, I'm like, just run at him. Just run. Because you know what? While you're doing this, he's finding someone that's open.
Because he's that good.
Yeah, they're so afraid.
In the Chiefs' offense, I feel like they can score at will, and I know that phrase gets used a lot, but it has been really interesting to watch. There were a couple games with the Chiefs where they didn't perform so well for most of the game, and then towards the end, they're just like, "Oh, we're gonna win now,
We're gonna
Patrick.
turn
You
it
want to throw
on."
the ball?" And then he just wins games like when he feels like.
We're going to use our cheat code, Tyreek Hill. But I just want to say one more thing about going back to the Bucks and the Saints.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know for sure, I guess, because they were saying that there's still a chance that Breeze thinks about coming back. I don't know. At the end of the game, that's what they were saying. At least Joe Buck, even though he was retiring him, he was saying, we don't know if this will be his last game.
Yeah.
But when I watched a little bit of Undisputed, not for really the content of terms of like what information wise, but more for entertainment. But sometimes I feel like you get some good stuff out of there. Like what I like a lot what Shannon Sharp says a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, how as you get older as a player, you still got it, but in spurts,
Right.
And I think that Breeze needs to understand that, like, he does have it in spurts right now still, but I think next season, I don't even know if he's going to have it in spurts, I don't think it will be there.
Yeah,
I could be
I
wrong,
agree.
but I don't see it, but at the end of the day, great career, Hall of Famer, it would have been nice for him to win one more, but to be honest, even if they did beat this Bucks team, there's no way they would win any other games going forward.
Yeah, against the Packers and whatever AFC team. I don't think the Saints matched up very well.
Yeah, so, but, what do you want to move on to next?
I'm happy to talk Chiefs-Browns because I think
Yes.
that game was... It feels like we were robbed of a storyline with Mahomes going down.
Yeah.
And even after that, it felt like Andy Reid robbed us of the Browns storyline. Because the Browns are a great underdog, and even though it was sad to see Mahomes go down with that probable concussion, like that was the Browns' chance, and I don't think the Browns are gonna get very, very many more chances.
It's sad, but injuries are a part of the game.
Right.
Especially in football. They just are. I'm not saying you should go out there and try to injure people. However, a lot of people have very different takes on that. You could ask the Saints organization like 2009,
Ooh.
but that was 2009, right? When Bounty Gate whatever happened.
Mm-hmm. It was around there.
Yeah. It's when they won the Super Bowl. I think it was 2009.
Mm.
But so I get that, you don't want to intentionally hurt people, Some people do though. But It is a part of the game, and you're right. That could have changed the game for the Browns. But the thing is, though, the Browns, if they would have scored when in the first half, that touchdown, that was almost a touchdown,
Yeah,
where he fumbled it in the end zone.
because he got hit with the helmet to helmet, and that's what caused the fumble. That just doesn't feel good for anyone, for the
Yeah.
Browns, for the Chiefs, for the fans. Like, that's not fun to watch.
No, it's not. And the thing is too is that so I don't remember the receiver's name, but the receiver was trying really hard. The receiver was trying really hard to score the touchdown. There was still a lot of time left, And obviously, you're right there. You don't know even if you do get stopped right there, if you're gonna score going forward. You never know. I've seen so many. I know not every team is the Bears, but I've seen so many like like it what I can't even think of the terminology for it, but like you're on the goal line. I've seen so many times where the Bears have gone like 4 plays and couldn't get anything done.
Right, yeah.
And then there's a penalty and then they get 4 more chances. You know what I mean? They still can't get it done. And I think to myself, it was like, so it's never guaranteed, so you should always, always, always try to get the touchdown.
Mhm.
But it just sucks that in that instance, you're like, oh, you're on the 1 though, and there's so much time left. And it's sad, but then it would have been a lot closer. But however, if Patrick Mahomes didn't get injured, but injuries are a part of the game, I do believe that wouldn't even have mattered in the long run, because he would have continued scoring. He was on a roll at that point.
Watching how Andy Reid handled having to run with Chad Henne, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches of all time too,
It is interesting.
because
Offensive coach for sure.
I'm with you on that. But the guts it took to have Henne run on 3rd and what was it, 12, 13?
Was that? Do you think that was a design play?
No. But to even allow it to tell Henne to
Oh.
not just throw it away,
Yeah.
and then to pass on 4th and 1.
Yeah, they're not passing on 4th and 1. I don't know if he actually told if there was any communication with like, hey, run it if you have to, or if that was just Chad Henne just being Chad Henne.
Channeling his inner Mahomes.
Yeah, and he was like, you know what, I gotta make a play right here. I gotta do it. I gotta put the team on my back. But the 4th and 1 is for sure Andy Reid's call, and that was ridiculous. Like that.
That's just a winning coach.
Yeah, he just said, I know we're better than you. And that's it. That's basically what he said. He said, I know that we're better than you, and I know that I can outsmart you. And he did. And it sucks when that happens when you're on the other side. But hey, if you were a fan of the Chiefs, you were loving that. I know I would have loved it if I was a big Chiefs fan. But yeah, I mean that game it could have been really something for the Browns, but I guess it's not the Browns' time. But I do think though the Browns could be a threat. I think in the future, I think they're pretty good at acquiring talent as of recently.
They have been, yeah.
And I think they're probably going to get a little bit better next season too.
I think it'll be nice for Baker Mayfield to not have to learn a new offense again, because this is his 3rd or 2nd one that he's had?
I think third.
So I think it'll be good for him to not have to do that. And I think the Browns will always be around. Like, I think they'll be in playoff contention for most years, for the next 3-4 years, I would say. But as long as the Chiefs and Bills continue to exist as they do, I think it's going to take a pretty big upset for the Browns.
Yeah, that is kind of tough, especially because the Bills' defense is so good too. Like even so, while we're doing this, we have the games in the background, and stuff like that. We're just rewatching them and rewatching this Bills-Ravens game. It was so defense heavy. They held the Ravens to 3 points for 4 quarters. 4 quarters. And I know that, Lamar Jackson didn't play the whole game, but he played 3 quarters, 3 full quarters of the game. And that was the MVP last season. I know he hasn't played exactly the same this season, but just wanted to point that out. We'll get back to what we're talking about, I guess. But that does suck for the Browns, because you think of them as a team, and they are a good team, but then you could forget, just how good the Bills and the Chiefs are, but especially the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think the Browns are quite at dynasty level like the Chiefs and the Bills are, but they'll be a fun underdog, and that's good too.
Yeah, that is good because you can get through. You can get through sometimes as an underdog. It could happen.
Right, yeah.
So, but I do think the thing that will help the Browns moving forward because I think their offense is pretty good how it is. I mean, obviously it could get better, but I think they just got to get better chemistry with each other.
Mhm.
Obviously maybe getting a better line is always helpful.
Right.
So you could do that, but if their defense gets a little bit better and they're I think that could really help them because while yes, Myles Garrett is very good, I think they need someone else to help him on that defensive line.
Their line, yes, but I think for me the bigger thing is their secondary was destroyed by injuries this year for pretty much the whole year.
Yeah,
So even though the Browns were maybe like the third favorite in their division for most of the year, with their defense getting better, I think they'll continue to be a top 2 threat in their division, even with the Steelers always being around, even with Joe Burrow hopefully leading the Bengals to be an actually good team.
dude, Joe Burrow is
That
good.
might take some time.
Joe
though.
Burrow is the man. I know we're not talking about this right now, but when you watch Joe Burrow play, it's just I think, man, you're good enough to lead a team anywhere. You just need a little bit more help.
Yeah, right.
I knew he was gonna get injured because I know that's like a weird take, but I knew he was gonna get injured because they couldn't block for him at
Right,
all, and I
yeah.
think I just the amount of hits he was taking because I like watching Joe Burrow play, so I watched a lot of the Bengals games, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, you guys are gonna get him killed. Like I almost thought to myself, I was like, just you know what. Wait another season to get good draft picks, and save Joe Burrow because you don't know. But obviously, you can't do that. Well, you could actually, but I feel like that was a bad idea to begin with. I just didn't want him to be injured, but he did end up getting injured. And I think next season, though, if they get a better line, a little bit, you'll see what Joe Burrow could really do for a team.
Yeah, I think so too. So, and even in that division that I assume will be competitive for the next few years, I think Baker Mayfield is good enough to keep the Browns relevant. It took him a while to get there because I remember a year ago I thought Baker Mayfield just wasn't good, but he's proved me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that he could be like a franchise quarterback. I just think that he needed some time.
Yeah.
Some quarterbacks they need a little bit more time than others. But the thing is with Baker Mayfield is he still has a little bit of consistency issues.
He does.
And that's why you kind of worry about Baker Mayfield because he isn't as consistent, and his running backs definitely do help him when he's struggling. Because I don't know how good Baker Mayfield would be without Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, because they score a lot.
They do.
Like a lot. I don't know if we're gonna talk about gambling that much, but I've made a decent amount of money off of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt scoring. That's always a good bet. Just as a hint, just to bet them to score, you're probably gonna win some money because they score very frequently.
Yeah, I think Nick Chubb is probably a top 5 running back in the league at this point in terms of just pure talent.
Yes.
So that you're right. That's very good for Baker Mayfield to have.
So I guess we could go into you want to go into Ravens and
Bills?
Yeah.
That I have a lot of thoughts on. Maybe not that game, but on the Ravens as a whole, because that game was pretty much emblematic to me of the problem the Ravens have been having and are going to continue to have until they make some major changes in the organization. Because Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback, but the team they put around him is not good enough to cater to his strengths, in my opinion. So until they make changes, and drafting well would be a good change, because I think the Ravens know that Lamar Jackson needs a wide receiver.
He needs help. That's why they signed Des Bryant.
Right. And that's why they drafted Hollywood Brown in the first round. They know, they just got it wrong.
Yeah.
So until they make that change, give him more help in the passing game, I don't see a path for the Ravens to win in the playoffs.
Do you think, though, there's any bit of being a little bit of Lamar's fault sometimes?
Yes, but not as much as I feel like people want to pin on him. He is not He's probably like a league average quarterback in terms of arm talent and in the
yeah.
passing game.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the league is going and the amount of talent he has as a running
On
quarterback,
his feet, yeah.
they should be able to cater an offense to his strengths. Harbaugh's a good coach. He should be able to do that, and he's trying. And you can see that the offense is not a typical NFL offense at this point. But I think they need to go further.
Yeah, I think that. So I was just asking just to ask because there are some times when I watch Lamar Jackson and I think you have to trust yourself. And maybe he doesn't doubt himself. Maybe it's just me thinking he doubts himself. But sometimes when I watch him, I think you don't trust your arm. You know, like he makes some really good throws sometimes. You know, like some really really good ones. And I think your arm is a lot better than you think it is. I don't know if maybe the critics have gotten to his head a little bit, but I feel like this season when I watched some of the Ravens games, I'm like, you're using your feet too much. Like you can make some throws. Just try to stand in there in the pocket just a little bit, or not even just in the pocket, but just try to stand back there and throw the ball because you can do it. And it does suck though because maybe at the same time there's nobody open.
Right.
Maybe that is a big problem because I do believe they need to help him.
Yeah, the Ravens historically are very weak at wide receiver.
It would be nice though if they got him a good tight end, like a really really good tight end.
Mark Andrews was looking like he was that guy at first, but he took a big step off this year. So that's quite a shame from Lamar's perspective.
I think for a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson, I think a really good a tight end would really help him out. I think it always helps, but I think when you have those tight ends running those kind of like 5-8 yard routes where you don't know if you're gonna run, you're thinking about it, and then they're coming at you, and the tight end is just right there, and you know they're gonna catch the ball. And then maybe get some after that. I think that would definitely help their offense out a little bit.
That's the big problem for Mark Andrews because I think he runs those routes well enough, but this year at least he just can't catch the ball. He drops a lot of easy passes, and that sucks for Lamar because that people don't hold that against Andrews as much as they hold it against Lamar.
Hold it against Lamar. Yeah, you're the quarterback though. You know what I mean? So you're always gonna get the most blame. I mean, so. Man, we're just such big Bears fans, because I just think about things and I think about the Bears,
Right, yeah.
Because, okay, so I'm not a Nick Foles fan, at least not with the current offense. However, what I will say is that we all know Nick Foles is not a mobile quarterback. Everyone knew that.
Right.
And my take when before the Bears traded for him was I really didn't want the Bears to trade for him because I felt like he played poorly in Jacksonville because he couldn't move and their line was so bad, and I was thinking the Bears line is really bad. So I don't know what we expect of him here, and the Bears line was bad and he didn't do so hot. I also think since his collarbone injury, I think that's what it was, right? He had a collarbone injury.
Yeah.
I think that affected his arm strength as well, which no one knew. So you can't fault the Bears on that one.
Right.
But the line was playing so badly. At the end of the day, though, for some reason, and I think it's obviously because of the Bears bringing in Sam Mustipher and it's Alex Bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was his last name. I wasn't sure if I got his first name wrong, but them bringing the Bears bringing them in, the line played so much better after that, and maybe Nick Foles would have played better with those guys there.
That's fair.
However, that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
So we can't really. It's just speculation at this point.
If you want to apply that to Lamar Jackson, the Ravens' offensive line is very, very good. So they do give him the room to throw. He just can't make the throws.
He just can't make the throws consistently. But like you said, though, I mean, it might be due to just talent.
Yeah.
But basically, what I was just trying to say is like, we did put a lot of blame on Nick Foles for playing poorly. And to be honest, so many people were, I guess, experts, you would say, and people that have played in the league and all that stuff, and I would consider them experts. They're all saying, like, if you were playing behind that line, you wouldn't know what to do either.
Yeah.
No one can play quarterback well behind a bad line. No one, and not to the level. And maybe they can play somewhat well, but not well enough to win a Super Bowl or anything, And just proof of that is just looking at the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh.
That line was so bad. Russell Wilson was getting killed, and Russell Wilson is a really, really good quarterback. However, when you have a bad line, what are you gonna do? You don't have enough time to make decisions. You don't have enough time to look at two different receivers. Your first receiver has to be your guy every time. Has to be your guy. That's not winning football. That's
Right.
not a winning offense. You have to be able to look at multiple people. And so if you don't got that, you don't got that. And then the more you get hit, and you're not supposed to, they tell you, you're not supposed to be afraid of getting hit, And I wouldn't say they're afraid per se, but I would
But
say
you still don't want to get hit.
they're thinking about it. The more you think about getting hit, the more you're going to feel rushed and the more bad decisions you're going to make.
Right.
So, just like even though that isn't the quarterback's fault, the quarterback always gets the most blame. And like Lamar Jackson, his receivers sometimes they drop the ball. However, you're not really gonna blame the receiver that much. You're gonna remember the quarterback that didn't make the pass easier for him to catch.
Right.
Make the pass easier. But in that game, he just didn't. There was so many mistakes.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And they weren't all his fault even. But you look at Lamar Jackson, like there was bad snaps, bad snaps in a playoff game. That's what got Lamar Jackson injured, actually. It was a bad snap. It was a snap. It went all the way into the end zone, basically. He had to throw the ball to get rid of it, and I think it was a grounding penalty. And then, he got hit in the process, and it injured him. Like, his teammates having poor play, I feel like really messed up Lamar Jackson that game. However, he didn't play that well either.
That's true.
So, at the end of the day, the Bills beat him fair and square.
Yeah, I was just about to say one team that's not having those quarterback problems and team construction problems is the Bills. And the reason I'm sort of lumping them in with the Chiefs as dynasties that'll be around for some time is because of Josh Allen. And he's earned my trust to be a dynasty franchise quarterback. The leap he took this year from in the passing game is unheard of.
Yeah, he's gotten so much better. Some people even think that towards the end of the season, he was actually the best quarterback in the league, not Patrick Mahomes, or maybe not the best, but because I think a lot of people actually no, I did hear people say that, but because I would say Aaron Rodgers played the best this season,
I agree.
in my opinion.
Rodgers probably going to get the MVP,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that.
And it's sad for me to say, because it's just. I watch him beat my Bears, and he smiles so much when he does it. He just loves beating the Bears.
He does.
And it hurts my feelings. It hurts. And I don't like that it hurts my feelings, but it just does. But I cannot deny it. I'm not one of those people that's just going to be like, Aaron Rodgers sucks, because I'm a Bears fan. Like,
Yeah.
No. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play this game. And if you can't accept that, you're being delusional.
Yeah, if you remove my Bears fandom from the equation, Aaron Rodgers is so good at football. Like it's a treat to watch him.
See, he's so good at football. I will never say it's a treat to watch Aaron Rodgers play football. I will not. And I will say I love watching Patrick Mahomes play football, and him and Aaron Rodgers share so many similarities, but I just can't. It's just something.
As a Bears fan, it hurts to watch both of them.
I'm not mad at Patrick Mahomes because I know you're not probably mad at him either, but I am okay with watching it because he's so good, and I'm like, I can't just deny myself of watching this guy. Just because the Bears didn't decide to pick him.
Because he's the one that got away.
Yeah, he's the one. It's not like with Aaron Rodgers, he's actively playing against us every single year, and he likes beating the Bears really bad, And I know Patrick Mahomes did feel really good when he beat the Bears that one time. However, I'm not holding it as much against Patrick Mahomes because we could have had him.
Oh, of course.
And so I'm holding it more against the Bears, my feelings as that they didn't get him or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
It's because, yes, we missed on Patrick Mahomes. However, if the Bears had Deshaun Watson, we would probably be Super Bowl contenders.
I agree.
So either way, both of those quarterbacks would have put us in the path where we could win Super Bowls. And so it's the two people we missed out on, and it's
swing and a miss.
It's kind of sad.
It happens, but it's hard not to be bitter about it.
So I have a question. This is going a little off topic, but about the Deshaun Watson trade. Do you think that there's any way that the Saints get Deshaun Watson?
It's tough to say something definitive, but if I had to make a statement, I would say no, because I think the Saints are going to go away for a little bit. Like, I don't think the Saints are going to be contenders
You
next
think
year
so?
or for the next few years because their cap situation is just terrible.
Oh, okay.
And I think Sean Payton wants Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston to like lead them through the down period.
That would make sense because of the cap situation, huh? Is he
Right.
hoping that a cheap quarterback can lead the way instead of paying someone?
I would think so.
I don't know, man. I think the Saints have all the pieces in their offense to be a really really good team.
But if Drew Brees isn't coming back, I don't think they have a quarterback.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying I think they have to try their very best to get a quarterback because you have all of these weapons. You can't let them go to waste.
Yeah,
You have
I
you have a Super Bowl team right here.
You can't waste Alvin Kamara.
You can't. And even what's his name, Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
You can't waste him either. Both of them are so good. You have everything. You have everything you need in terms of an offense. You just need the quarterback. And for Saints fans, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry because I know this is probably very hurtful. I definitely feel your pain. Not to the same extent, at least, because you've at least seen glory in your football team. However, I have not.
We have the double doink.
The double doink, yeah. So I have not. So at least you witnessed some of that. It's never been there for me.
Right. So in terms of Deshaun Watson, I don't think the Saints are a likely destination for him. The one that I keep hearing is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And that would be really interesting to me because that would be giving up on Tua.
So basically that would make sense for the Dolphins because the Dolphins could trade Tua and the first round pick, and then they would still feel fine because they have a pretty good team as it is. I mean, they were able to compete with Ryan Fitzpatrick on the field. And listen, I'm a big fan of Fitzmagic, seeing that Beard go out there, and just do that stuff out there,
ripping 40-yarders every few plays.
It's magical, it really is. I mean, because the throws he makes, it's not just he makes good throws, it's he makes throws and it doesn't look like it's supposed to work. That's what is good about Fitzpatrick. That's why it's Fitzmagic. It's because he knows how to just turn it on. But the thing is, though, he at the end of the day, he's never really been the guy,
Right.
But if you had someone like Deshaun Watson, your team could really go somewhere. Yeah, he's a leader. So going into Deshaun Watson now because we talked about this. So I've watched a lot of Texans games this year because I was interested in how their team was, and I was interested in maybe somehow they could turn it on. But their running game was awful.
It was.
Their blocking was awful. They don't have any good receivers. Deshaun Watson was still putting up so many points every game.
I think Will Fuller's pretty good, but
okay, so yeah, one guy, I guess. But you know what I'm saying,
right,
though.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, too, you never know. Deshaun Watson could be making these people look better. Like what's it called? Joe Montana says Jerry Rice made him look good, and Jerry Rice says Joe Montana made him look good. So I don't know. I don't know. I know it's like comparing them to. I'm not saying that they're on those levels at all.
Right.
Especially not Will Fuller. But what I would say is that Deshaun Watson could be making everyone look better, and I think he definitely was because they just, in terms of talent, it was him.
It was, yeah.
And he still put up a ton of numbers and kept them competitive in games they should have never been competitive in. He played so well against the Colts every single time. He should have won one of those games. There was like a fumble. I can't remember, like on the 1 yard line or something like that. I don't remember if it was his fault or the Lions' fault. I think it was a bad snap or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably should have won that game. But the Colts had a very good defense, and with having no weapons and being able to do what they did against them, I would say that if the Dolphins had Deshaun Watson, they have a good team. They could be Super Bowl contenders.
Oh yeah, I think the Dolphins are constructed really well, and it's like I said, the Saints might be they're a quarterback away, and from the perspective of like a team, I think most teams would want to give Tua Tagovailoa another chance, but if Deshaun Watson is on the table,
you never, yeah. Deshaun Watson's a sure thing.
Yeah,
Tua
like
is a maybe.
This is so rare for a quarterback of this quality to be available.
This young. He's like 25, right?
I think so.
25 years old.
And he like we cannot overstate how badly he wants out of Houston. It is bad. That organization is run horribly, and he just does not want to be there anymore.
It's crazy that J.J. Watt was like literally like telling him like you need to go.
Right.
Like I'm sorry.
And
we're wasting your time.
Since you were talking about the Colts, like it really stood out to me after one of those losses to the Colts. T.Y. Hilton came over to Watson when he was on the bench, and he just said, "I'm sorry, dude," because like even the opposing teams know like how
good he is,
how bad of a deal Watson is getting here.
Yeah, and if he was on a lot of other teams in the NFL, it would have been completely different.
It would.
He's on the Texans, and I wouldn't say the Texans were always a poorly run organization, but right now, for sure,
Definitely,
for sure, you know,
like Bill O'Brien tore that team to shreds.
I don't even know why. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why did you do that? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, a lot of the moves he made, no one else would have made those moves.
Right.
So why did you think it was a good idea?
Like they were historically bad trades.
Yeah. But so hopefully Deshaun Watson will be on a team that really helps him talent-wise next season and really helps display his talent. His talent was displayed, but makes it worth something because I like watching him play too. I mean, not just obviously that's a selfish reason, but I mean, I feel like when you have talent like that, it would be nice for it to be worth something, for you to have a chance, especially when you play a position like that where everything is on, all the eyes are on you always, and you're doing the best that you can, and everyone knows that you're doing very, very well, and it's still not working out for you, and so that's kind of sad to watch.
It is.
So you want to talk about the Rams and the Packers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what do you think about the game?
I thought that Rams-Packers game went exactly as I expected it to.
Yeah.
I didn't think the Rams were ever going to be a challenge for this Packers team, and I was right about that.
See, my thing is, though, watching the game, is that for most of the game, it actually was score-wise pretty close. You know? But then, you know, the Packers just...
Turned it on.
They turned it on. But the thing is, though, the Rams could have changed up the situation of the game, but they dropped 2 picks on the same drive.
Right.
From Aaron Rodgers, and it's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Cause
Rodgers is not going to give you a pick very often.
And then 2 in a row? What, do you throw like 6 the whole season? 6 the whole season? And it's like, you missed 2 of them. Drop 2 of them in the end zone, or close to the end zone. And so, who knows if one of those gets taken back, or not taken back, but like, you know, gets actually picked off. The game could be different. But the Packers beat them pretty handedly. However, well, it was interesting because, wow, I am hearing a lot of takes where recently that the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. If Patrick Mahomes is healthy, he's playing way better than Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs right now, I think.
You think so?
I think so, just because Aaron Rodgers looks like he can still make the plays, you know, but there's just something there where the Rams defense just wasn't playing as well as I feel like they should have been. People were so open. You know, he was just finding guys wide open. Like he got a touchdown pass to really solidify their victory in the game, and it was a wide open receiver running a 9 route. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they did. I remember that.
Yeah,
it was Lazard, I think.
And so I'm not completely sure exactly who it was, but I remember what I saw.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You know, he does do well. He marches down the field, but he almost threw 2 picks in a row.
But my opinion is that was a rarity that the Rams just couldn't capitalize on. Rodgers threw 5 picks in the regular season, and that was in 2019 he threw 4 picks, and in 2018 he threw 2 picks. So he only threw 5 picks, and that's a down year for him. I think that was just the Rams not being able to take advantage of a fluke, because I think that Rodgers has been playing at MVP level. He has been playing as well as Mahomes has this year, in my opinion.
No, I think for the majority of the season, I think that Rodgers has been playing better. However, I just feel like so they had it was pretty close throughout the game, you know, for most of the game until the very end of the game. And I think if you try to play that game with the Chiefs, I think that Patrick Mahomes, you don't want to play that game with him. I think that he'll win that game.
That's fair, but for me, I think Rodgers is equally on that level. Like you don't want to play that game with Rodgers either.
Yeah.
The Rams gave the Packers the ball left with 30 seconds left on the clock. They just drove down the field and got a field goal with 30 seconds.
Yeah. But Patrick Mahomes did the same thing. That's funny, right? You did the same thing in the second quarter of the game where they gave him like a minute, and he's like,
time to score now
is too much for guys like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. I will say, if it does come down to that, now it would be a fun game to watch. However, I don't really want to watch that game. Not because of Aaron Rodgers. It actually has nothing to do with him being great and beating the Bears all the time. It has more to do with, I actually just want to see Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes play.
Part 2.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I just want to see that. And I think it's just storyline stuff. And yeah, not everyone cares about storylines or whatever, but I'm a big sports fan, so I care about storylines. Right. I would like to see it.
If the Buccaneers do make the Super Bowl, they have the storyline either way, or at least Tom Brady has the storyline.
Yes.
Because if the Chiefs get there, then it's Mahomes Brady Part 2, and if the Bills get there, then it's the Bills facing their Darth Vader, who's destroyed them for the past 20 years, in Tom Brady.
Yeah, it would still be pretty good both ways, but I think with the Chiefs though, if he beats, and it kind of already has happened, but if you know what they're gonna say, if the Chiefs beat the Bucks, it's a real big passing of the torch moment for Patrick Mahomes, even though he already won the Super Bowl. Even though, but that's what they're gonna say. But hey, you know what? When they say it, I'll be like, I like it. It is the truth technically still.
And I think there would be a little bit of truth to it if the Chiefs beat the Packers too. It wouldn't be as fun from a media perspective because it's not Tom Brady Part 2. But Rodgers is part of that same group in terms of guys that can pass the torch. He's just going to be here for a little while longer.
A little bit longer for sure.
My preferred outcome right now is Chiefs-Packers because I'm going to turn off my Bears fandom. I really like this Packers team. Like, I think they play really well. They're constructed really well. They're so much better than last year's Packers team that was like the fakest 12-4 team I've ever seen. They might have even been 13-3. I can't remember. But I remember last year they just didn't look as good as their record. And to me this year they look better than their record. So I'm rooting for the Packers to make it to the Super Bowl. Maybe not to win it because I can't let my Bears fandom go for that.
Oh, yeah. You're like, no, I just want to see it, though.
Right, because I really enjoy Aaron Rodgers.
Patrick Mahomes, though, wins another Super Bowl, like, back-to-back.
You think people are going to turn on him?
No, I just mean, like, what? This is insane.
To do it so young, so early.
So young, back-to-backs, like, okay. So at this point, then you think, when does it stop?
Right.
When does it end? All of his teammates around him in his offense, except for Travis Kelce, are pretty young.
They are.
And you can be a pretty effective tight end even when you kind of lose your speed and stuff like that if you have hands. And guess what? Travis Kelce has hands, so he could be effective. It's kind of like the Jason Witten effect, you know what I mean? And Antonio Gates. And I won't say Tony Gonzalez. I think when he retired, he still had some left in him. Like, he still had some speed. Not the same, but he could still move around the field pretty well. Actually, fun fact: Tom Brady wanted him to play with him when he decided to retire.
Oh yeah.
They worked out together, and they just for the off season. Tom Brady asked him, and it was obviously probably because Tom Brady was like, "Hey man, you can still play. You could play with me, And Tony was like, "No, I'm done." He should have played with them though. He probably would have won a Super Bowl with him. But that is interesting, So. I think the Chiefs still have a ton of good left in them because their offense can score. They can beat anybody, and their defense is a lot better than people think too.
It is.
It's a lot better, and I didn't even know it was that good like before the season, because I don't think it was this good last season, but this season it seems like they're pretty effective.
I would agree, yeah. And Andy Reid somehow is still getting better as a coach.
Yeah.
Like I know one of the big popular things to knock him for is time management, clock management.
You don't have to worry about that when you're up.
But even beyond that, he's making fewer of his classic boneheaded clock management decisions.
Yeah.
And you like to see that as a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you want to switch it up a little bit? Want to talk about some basketball?
Let's talk some basketball.
Just a little bit. All right. So do you want to talk about the whole Nets situation?
The big news: James Harden to the Nets, and I am going to remind you of a conversation we had before the season started.
I remember.
We were talking, and you asked me where I thought James Harden was going to go, and I said I think he's going to go to the Nets, and I am not going to be happy about it.
Yep, you were very adamant about the not being happy part. You didn't think it was going to work, you said.
So James Harden is on the Nets, and I do not want to be happy about it because I've told you many times in the past how anti-super team I am.
Yes. Same here. I am also anti-super team.
So I thought Kyrie and Kevin Durant, that was good enough. That is like it was a good pairing, but it's not a super team. It's a very good team, but I don't like the trend of super teams forming. And with Harden going there, I don't want to like the Nets. I didn't even want to like the Nets before Harden got there.
Yep.
But watching them, KD is so good.
Oh, he's so smooth.
He has not lost a step. And even with all of Kyrie's shenanigans, I think Kevin Durant is good enough to carry that team far.
That's the good thing about of them having Kevin Durant.
Right.
Is,
So he won me over, and I've greatly enjoyed watching the Nets.
Kevin Durant did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Harden going there, if he continues his play style that he had on the Rockets, I just can't get behind it.
Oh,
It is not fun for me to watch. I will say that in the 2 games he's played,
it has not been that.
It has not been that way. He has been creating shots. He is not doing his foul baiting that I very much don't like.
Despise. I hate that too. I hate it. I said despise for you, but that's how I feel.
Right. He's done it a little bit, but not as much as he did in 2018, really. Which
it
is
was
when
kind of like So you remember when the Heat were like really good with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh?
Yeah.
And Dwayne Wade was really, really good at that pump fake and then jumping and shooting into you. I hated that. Hated it. And then basically James Harden found his own way of doing that, but with a step back. You know what I mean? Like, and so it just it makes my blood boil.
It's part of the game. It's part of the game, but it's just not fun.
It isn't fun because it's like, come on, dude, just make your shot fair and square, man.
Right.
If they foul you. But
on one hand, like, I am conflicted because you can't really blame Harden for taking advantage of the rules, but I don't know like how willing I am to let that go.
Yeah,
because like he's still choosing to do that, and I'm gonna drift topic for a second. He sort of another thing that made me not warm up to James Harden was the way he handled this trade.
Oh.
I am not a fan of the way he
completely forcing it.
Right. He forced the Houston management's hand, and he talked badly about his teammates. Like he straight up disrespected them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make any claims about who James Harden is as a person because that's not fair. But I am willing to make a claim that the way he's handled his basketball relations,
not the best teammate.
Right. It would not be a pleasant thing to be one of James Harden's Houston teammates, in my opinion.
Especially because when it came out that they basically did everything that James Harden wanted them to do.
He had the keys to the castle.
But it could be a little bit of like you're overselling what's going on. However, I mean, I could see it because everyone he wanted to play with, they got.
Right. He wanted Chris Paul, they got Chris Paul. He wanted Russell Westbrook, they got Russell Westbrook. They even gave him John Wall.
Yeah.
And then five games into the season, he was like, "This isn't good enough for me."
They sold the house, and now they can't pay the mortgage.
That's good.
You know,
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like,
and there's a part of it that the Houston ownership changing hands, it was a big deal because I know this new owner doesn't really want to win that badly. So I understand where Harden's coming from. It just seemed very disrespectful to me. The way he talked about his teammates, he was like, "We don't have enough talent on this team." To me, that's the kind of thing that even if you think it, you don't want to say out loud.
You don't say it, you know. But that's the thing. He was really, really trying to get traded.
He was,
you know. And so while I don't like it, I mean, but that's what players can do now, you know. And you know, I'm not the biggest fan, not because you know, if you want to get traded, you want to get traded. That's cool. That's all cool with me. However, when you get your teammates involved and you start talking bad about them, it doesn't seem that good, you know. However, I will say he does look like, and it just started, that he is better for this team. But I think it has a lot to do with, I think when you play with Kevin Durant, that's a guy that you know you can trust no matter what.
Oh, for sure.
Like you feel probably a big weight coming off your shoulders. Like, hey, you know what? Like this guy can do it. Now, if you're Kyrie Irving, you might think that, you're better than Kevin Durant or something. And so you probably think that I would feel like that's not really a concern for you. You know what I mean? So, because I think Kyrie thinks that like he's the most unstoppable player on the planet. You know what I mean? And to an extent, he is super unstoppable, but not as unstoppable as Kevin Durant, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But that's why I think Kevin Durant is so good for this team, and he'll be the glue that holds them together. Because so sometimes Kyrie is off, sometimes James Harden is off. Especially in like the conference round of the finals, the conference round of the playoffs. That's evident. It happens a lot. However, Kevin Durant is never off.
He's not off. Yeah.
He's been off one game. I've seen him in the playoffs, and in recent history. Obviously, when he was young, it's a little different. But ever since he's been in a pretty established star in this league. And top 5 player in this league, I don't think I've ever seen him play poorly.
Right. The conversation around Kevin Durant has always bewildered me to some extent, because before he went to the Warriors, he was in the conversation for best player in the world, maybe even over LeBron. And maybe that was a touch too far, but the fact that it was even a conversation, it just sort of died out because he went to that talent-loaded Golden State team. He hasn't lost a step coming off this injury, and I think he's still the second best player in the world.
You know what was crazy too? And it might be like, okay, of course he got better. But when he was on the Warriors team, he looked like skill-wise he was better. Like his defense was better. I think he was getting more rebounds. He was more of a complete player on that Warriors team. And maybe that's because he didn't have to worry about, hey, I have to score the ball so much, But it does suck because even when that was happening, he was instantly out of the conversation of best player in the world,
right?
So I definitely see what you're saying here, but he has not lost a step. He's so smooth. He could hit any shot. He obviously still has a size, so he could really guard anybody technically.
He can.
I wouldn't have him on Anthony Davis because just too big, too big. They're same height, but too big.
KD's really slim.
Yeah. So but I think he'll hold them together. I think no matter what, Kevin Durant's always going to score. Maybe Harden will have a bad game. Maybe Kyrie will have a bad game. But I don't think there's any chance that it'll happen at the same time. And even if it does, Kevin Durant, you could always go to him if you really need it.
Yeah, he's always going to keep you in the game.
But the way that Harden's playing right now, though, it seems like it's a lot easier for Harden to be good like this than it was before because he's scoring from all around the court.
And he doesn't need to ISO anymore.
Yeah.
I know he was a big fan of that D'Antoni system in Houston, but he's not ISOing that much, and he's moving the ball really well.
Yeah, he's also playing off the ball really well.
He is.
And so what I also think will help is this, right? I know everyone always likes to talk about what kind of shape James Harden is in, and it is reasonable, especially because, in the playoffs, he does look like he's really tired. I've seen it where it just looks like he's gassed. Now, I will say it's because probably a lot to do with that Rockets system, how they ran it. But that's also my point, is I think on this team, even if he isn't in the best of shape after I've thought about it a little bit, he'll be able to be effective the whole playoffs because he can play off the ball. He doesn't have to bring the ball up,
Right.
He doesn't have to worry about, I have to do everything and I have to score so many points on offense, like 45 points for us to win, and then I also have to play defense, I think that this team, it's obviously going to be a lot different for him. And saying this isn't a compliment either, just so I want to put that out there. Of course, it's going to be easy for you to play on a team that has Kevin Durant.
Right.
And Kyrie Irving.
I do think his physical condition is still a reasonable thing to be concerned about because the Nets are 5th in the league in terms of pace. They still play really quickly. And their defensive abilities are not that great, or at least they haven't been so far. So those problems that you just mentioned Harden having in the playoffs, I don't think those will necessarily go away. And if it's fair to say that he's in a worse physical shape than he has been in recent years, that could be a problem.
I don't think it'll go away completely. What I do think is that they will be minimized, like not completely, but I think because he doesn't have to take control the
Right.
whole game.
Because he's not number one.
Yeah, and it's like KD is, and KD is not like he has the ball coming up the court either. Like that'll probably be Kyrie,
Right.
you know. But at the end of the day, they could play off the ball and kind of preserve more of their preserve their energy and decide when they want to take their shots, because at the end of the day, all of them are good isolation scorers.
They are.
And so that just basically means that if they wanted to go, okay, I'm gonna score this time. Okay, I'm gonna score this time. You don't really have to run a play for so should I put that on vibrate? They don't really have to run a play for James Harden, Kevin Durant, or Kyrie to score. They can score whenever they want.
Right.
So I think that'll be good for them, for all of them, but especially James Harden.
So what are your thoughts on the capability of this Nets team in the playoffs? Because I know the big conversation right now is whether or not the Nets are guaranteed to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
I mean, obviously their defense needs to get better. If James Harden gets into slightly better shape, slightly better, I don't know how you beat them. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like I just don't know. I think the team that could beat them is the Lakers, but that's on the other side, you
Right.
know. Because basically, the Bucks, they have everything they need to be a good team, you know, to be like they are a good team, but to be the team, you know, to get to the finals. But there's just something about them. They're very Toronto Raptors when it was LeBronto, you know. They have that vibe where it's just they have everything. They should be able to make it. They should be able to persevere. But there's always some roadblock that's going to stop them. And maybe I'm just saying that because they haven't made it yet and they're going to make it. Giannis is still really young.
Right.
But it just seems like there's something about this Bucks team where whenever they have a challenge in front of them, they're deer in headlights.
Very
You know?
nice.
I didn't even mean to do that, but then I saw it and I was like, well, I'm gonna do it. But that's what I think. Until they prove me wrong, what am I supposed to think? Because they haven't proved us wrong. What is it, like 2 years ago they got bounced super early or something, like in the playoffs? Or what one was it? I remember was it the Bucks that got bounced like real early?
I can pull that up, but I know that they have not performed very well in the playoffs recently. Let me check. Last year,
I know the Celtics did 2 years ago.
last year they lost to the Heat in the conference semifinals, and the year before that, they did make it to the conference finals and lost to the Raptors.
To the Raptors. Okay, so it was last year what I was thinking, but I've watched so much basketball over the years. It's kind of it just blends in your head a little bit. It just blends in.
the common prediction right now is that it's going to be the Bucks and the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals, and people are saying that the Bucks have not performed in the playoffs, but I think that for some reason the Bucks are underrated still. Like Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the best players in the league, and the Bucks finally made moves to get him actual support.
Yeah.
And
Well, I wouldn't say they didn't have support before. Like, if Giannis could just shoot the ball a little bit, then it would make the team so much better.
that's true. It's the Lamar Jackson conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the support that Giannis has had in the past couple of years has been good enough.
Yeah.
And maybe
For his skill set.
right? Maybe there's an argument that makes Giannis not good enough. But that's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying. I just felt like I was like, I don't know about the whole thing. He had enough help if he was just slightly better in that one area. That's
think
what I feel. But
that's very fair. I think these Bucks are as equally likely to make the Eastern Conference Finals as the Nets. I think they're as good. They're just not flashy, and people don't appreciate not flashy teams. And for me, a sleeper pick, I don't know if it's a sleeper pick, is the 76ers. I think they're finally constructed the right way. I know there's a lot of chatter about Ben Simmons because he was reportedly going to be traded for James Harden.
yeah, not anymore.
But even despite that, I think there are three teams really in contention for the Eastern Conference champion. It's the Bucks, the Nets, and the Sixers for me.
Sixers.
And I'm not willing to put the Nets on that pedestal above them. like so many people want to right now, it's too close to call for me, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, to be honest, and it is a little funny, but because they have so many good players, so you don't really know how the chemistry is going to be. So it is somewhat of a hot take. You know, you've seen everything like chemistry-wise from the Bucks, except now they have Drew Holiday, who I think is definitely going to help. He's a pro's pro, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Drew Holiday, he plays good defense, and he can score, and he's a good passer. He could do everything you need him to do, like everything that you would ask of him. Obviously, he can't guard like a center or something like that, you know. But everything you would ask Drew Holiday to do, he could get it done. So I definitely think there's a difference between him and what adding him and how the other Bucks teams were constructed, because I think that it'll help a lot more having him.
Yeah.
But the Nets, we'll see how they play with Kyrie. If it meshes with Kyrie, if it somehow is like just meshes perfectly with all of these scores,
then it's over.
then it's over. It's like you can't. How are you gonna stop that?
It's a big question though, because like Harden and Kyrie are two of the very volatile personalities in the NBA.
Yeah.
So getting them together that's why it's still a toss up for me.
See, because it sucks too for Harden, right? Because if he could, okay, so remember the season he played with Chris Paul? And they were doing so well, like the first season.
Mm-hmm.
That they were doing so well that even the playoffs, though, Chris Paul was playing better than James Harden. It is sad, though, and then Chris Paul played so well the season they got rid of him, and then Russell Westbrook, just didn't pan out.
Right.
Who knows what would have happened if James Harden would have just gave it one more shot? You know what I mean? I think that could have changed a big part of how their team was run. I think their success could have been a lot different, because looking at what Chris Paul did with the Thunder, I think he could have helped that team out a lot. It wouldn't have obviously helped the size advantages that other teams had on them, but that's the thing where it's like James Harden could clearly, I think, sometimes have a good thing going for him and just say, I don't like it, and then kind of starting problems and wanting someone out.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's done.
And I don't think that could happen on this team, like not because of, not because he won't get upset or anything, but because, dude, it doesn't matter. We have Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
we have
Harden doesn't hold the type of sway in Brooklyn that he had in Houston.
Yeah.
Like, I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. He had the keys to the castle. They gave him everything he wanted. And the Nets aren't going to cater to him like that, I think, mostly because it's his first year, but also because he's not clearly the guy.
He's not. And I don't think he will be, just because of his play style, too.
Right.
Even if you watch him play, how he is scoring right now, it is nice he's scoring from all over the place. I do like that. But they do look like he's kind of wide open. And it is definitely beneficial for James Harden to have Kevin Durant on the same side of the court, you know?
Yeah, and it lets him show off more of his passing skills, which have been underrepresented, I think, when he was in Houston.
Yeah, he's definitely a really good passer. I mean, I've always thought he was a good passer, because you don't get like 10 assists a game by being a bad passer, you know?
Right.
But just because of how much iso ball he played, it's gonna skew your image of what kind of passer he is. But ultimately, I would like to see them play in the future. I've seen them play already, but I would like to see more. Very excited to see them play with Kyrie. And yeah, I think that'll be really good to watch.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so do you want to talk about the Bears? You want to talk about that next time?
I want to talk about the Bulls.
The Bulls? Quick. Okay, the Bulls. Okay, we'll talk about the Bulls real quick. Probably our last topic.
Because I have gotten really into the Bulls this year, more than I have in past years, which I think is perfectly fair to say, because the Bulls haven't been very good for the past few years. So my assessment of this team is their current record is 6-8, and they are far better than that. I know it sounds kind of homery to say that I think the Bulls are far better than 6-8.
No, but say it, Jack.
But
say
I really think they are. And fans of any given team, I know anybody can play this game, but the Bulls have 5 losses for a combined 12 points.
Yeah.
They have a 1-point loss, 2 2-point losses, a 3-point loss, a 4-point loss.
They have been very close games.
And what that says to me is that the Bulls are a good team, but they're young, they need coaching, and they need to learn the clutch gene.
Yeah, or they need to find someone who has it.
You don't think Zach LaVine has it?
No, I think Zach LaVine is a very, very good player, you know. And I think he does to an extent. I just think that the Bulls are currently asking too much of Zach LaVine.
I think this season so far it's tough to make that assessment for him because Lauri Markkanen was out for so long. But in those 5 losses that are also close, LaVine took the last shot or the second to last shot in all of them, and it didn't go down. So it's encouraging to me that he's still willing to take those shots even though they're not going down.
Yeah.
But it does look kind of bad for the Bulls' last play to just be a LaVine ISO and for him to take a 16-foot pull-up jump shot.
But it's like, who else is going to take that shot?
Right. In this most recent win over the Rockets, LaVine did make a pass to Lauri Markkanen, who hit the 3 that sort of clinched the game for him. So with Markkanen back, if he's going to take the step up that I hope he will, I think Markkanen can be that guy. Or maybe Kobe White could even be that guy.
Kobe White is way better than I thought he was going to be. You know, I didn't think he was going to be this good.
I think he is the big project this year. I know Billy Donovan said that like Kobe is the main focus outside of LaVine to develop him into the guard that we think he can be. He's a combo guard for me. He has great passing ability, but he's also a great scorer.
He's just a lot faster than I thought coming out of college. I thought that because a big part of his offense is obviously his speed. And I didn't think he was like that fast, but I was wrong. So if he could figure out, like, if he can get more solid, you know, and more consistency and utilize his speed really, really well, then yeah, there's a high ceiling for Kobe White in terms of that. I'm not saying he's gonna be the best player in the league, but he definitely could be a difference maker on a team.
I agree. And what I like about Kobe White on offense is that he's not afraid to shoot, even when he's not having a great shooting night. And that logic can get a little dicey because Lauri Markkanen had the same thing for a while. He wasn't afraid to shoot, even though he wasn't shooting well, and that frustrated me. But with Kobe, I think it's the right thing for him because that's his role on the team. He's a combo guard.
He has to score.
He has to score. For me, the biggest improvement I want to see from Kobe White is defense. He is one of the worst defenders in the league right now, and that the Bulls don't need more bad defensive players.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, maybe things will get better. He is still pretty young.
It's encouraging for Billy Donovan to be on the team because he's a coach's coach.
Yes.
And I think he has the ability to coach those things as long as players are willing to listen, which I think these Bulls are.
I think they're pretty receptive to him. At least that's what it seems so far.
Far more than they were to Jim Boylan.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have never been a coach. No other team would. Okay, so this is one thing I want to add. If no other team in the league is willing to hire your coach, wants him, no one's interested, you should probably not hire that coach. Now, there are times that may be wrong. However, probably most of the times it is right.
Right.
You know, probably like 90% of the time, 99, 95, you know, when no one else wants that person, it's because, you know what? They shouldn't be in that position.
He's not that good.
You know, so I don't know. I mean, I like how the Bulls are going so far. And I also want to say something. I like that you said combo guard because I think that when we were growing up, right, the term combo guard came up a lot. Like for certain players, like Ben Gordon, they call him a combo guard because, you know, he wasn't tall enough to be a shooting guard, but he wasn't a point guard, you know. People don't use that term anymore because all point guards are supposed to not just be passers, they're supposed to score too. You know, when we were growing up, and we're not even that old, but when we were growing up, there was a place in the league for Lonzo Ball. You know, there was a place in the league for and this guy, he would have been talked about completely differently when we were brought up because there were a lot of point guards that just were really good at passing.
Right.
They played their role. They weren't so big on scoring, right? And I like Lonzo Ball because I think
I do too.
I think he's an important player for certain types of teams where if you have enough people that can score, and he can get them the ball, you know.
So he does fit well in the Pelicans.
Yes. Yeah. No, he definitely does, and that's what I'm saying. But for most people, you look at Lonzo Ball and you say, well, he's good, but he's not really that good.
Right.
But he is that good. It's the same thing when people say about well, they don't say it that much, but they used to say it a lot about Rondo, where when everybody left him and they're like, well, what's Rondo doing on the Celtics now? And I'm thinking, all of his teammates that left, they got old. And you know what? He's still getting like 15 assists a game. Like, what do you want? What do you want from him? You can't do it all by yourself. No one can. No one can. And so, especially not when you're like 6'1", too. I'm sorry. You know, height is a big factor in basketball.
It is.
Now, well, some people will be like, what about Allen Iverson? Okay, well, if you want to just play that game,
There
obviously
are
there's exceptions for
to every
everything.
rule, yeah.
There's exceptions for everyone. But yeah, I mean, the term combo guard, I've been thinking about it recently. That's why I just wanted to talk about that for a second, because people don't really think about that anymore. But it is something that it is a lost term.
Right, because like you said, most guards need to have both of those abilities now. But with Kobe White in particular, like, he does have the passing skill, but he has that shooter's mentality. Like, he feels like he wants to shoot as much as Zach LaVine does, and I like that.
And he believes in himself. That's good.
Which,
you could tell when you watch Kobe White go to score, he's not afraid.
Right.
You know,
he'll take a shot from anywhere.
Like, I've seen a lot of Bulls players that were trying to score, and it just didn't look good. You know, it looked like they were like, oh, I hope this goes in.
Yeah. So I'm willing to stake a claim on this Bulls team that they will finish over 500 come the end of the season.
Over 500?
I think they have that in them, and I think that gets the Bulls the 8th seed, maybe the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think that could happen. I think it could happen too.
I'm not willing to say that they'll win a playoff series, but I think this is the year that the Bulls need to at least make the playoffs, because this is what the whole past 4 years has been leading to.
Yeah.
This team, this starting five.
It does make me a little sad, because I do believe like what you're saying, and I should be happy, but the Bulls are so good at being an 8th seed, so good at being a 7th seed. You know
Very
what I mean?
much so.
They're so good at just splitting the wins and losses perfectly. They do it all the time, and what does that get us? You know, it doesn't get us anywhere. And so I'm happy that, you know, watching the Bulls is fun again, but I wish that they had one more person that could really sorry, what's the game right now? Miles Bridges playing all right. Not Miles, Mikal Bridges playing okay. I just wish that they had one more guy that was at Zach LaVine level or a little bit higher. Maybe that's asking for a lot, but if we did have that, then you wouldn't be feeling bad about the Bulls making strides towards being a great team.
Then we
maybe
would
someone
say,
steps up. You know,
then
not
we
great
would
team, but a
say
good
the
team.
Bulls are in 5-seed contention, 4-seed contention. And though I do think that, like, this starting five is what the past few years have been leading to, you're right. One-star teams aren't good enough anymore. And
unless that star's LeBron.
Fair. I think Zach LaVine is an all-star. I think he'll make the all-star team this year. But if we do make the 8th seed or the 7th seed this year, we're probably not going to go very far with it. That means that in this next offseason, we have to make some real decisions, because I know we have a lot of money opening up. And I'm not sure what the next free agency class looks like, but maybe it's time that the Bulls finally get back in the free agency game.
They have to try. You know what I mean? Or else, what are you doing?
Right.
Because at a certain point, you're not gonna. If the Bulls really do do what you think they're gonna do, and I think they could do, then they're not gonna be in really the room to get any really big difference maker in the draft.
Yeah, I'm always down for a magical 8-seed run, but you can't really bank on those.
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, that'd be awesome, but you can't. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to watching more of the season play out, but the Bulls need a little bit more, just a little bit more, and maybe they don't. Maybe Patrick Williams.
Maybe he's the guy.
Maybe
he's looked great so far.
Yeah, maybe he's the missing piece, but he's there. He just needs to develop, and I think it's possible. But the thing is, though, if that's the case, man, if Lauri Markkanen just became what we want Lauri Markkanen to be, and what he could be,
yeah,
Lauri Markkanen is an athletic player. You know, he should be a better shooter. He has basically everything that you need to be a really good player in this league. In terms of like just the mold, just like the skill set. It's just the consistency for Lauri Markkanen is so bad. But if he could find a way to be consistent, then if Patrick Williams if he turns out to be a really, really good player, then we can actually start having a conversation about what the Bulls can do.
I agree.
But if we don't get that, I'm not gonna hate on Wendell or anything like that. Wendell is a solid player. I will say, obviously, I wasn't that happy with the pick when it happened because I felt like the Bulls needed a wing player to try to help them move forward, and I kind of wanted Michael Porter. That didn't happen.
Yeah, for me, that's one of those things that, unfortunately, you just kind of have to let go because there was the injury thing that completely tanked his draft stock. And Denver,
it wasn't just the Bulls.
Right, yeah, Denver picking him where he did. It was 13 or 14, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a drastic fall from where he was expected to go. It's just one of those fluke things that you kind of have to be like, well, that was an unfortunate situation.
But he is playing all right so far in this season. But so you can't be too mad though, because Wendell, he is doing his job.
Yeah, I like Wendell.
But I'm glad though under this regime they decided, you know what, they understand that wing players get it done.
They do.
They get it done. We gotta find the one. And
the guy we found was asked to guard Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James back to back, and he did really well.
Yeah, LeBron actually complimented him. He said like we have the Bulls have a good one. And I know LeBron's a pretty cool, like a pretty good guy in terms of giving his respect to players and stuff like that.
He is.
But it is still nice to hear that LeBron thought that when Patrick Williams was guarding him, he was like, you know what? He's a pro. This guy can play. And to know that, that's good.
I remember explicitly watching Patrick Williams clamp down LeBron, force him to take a bad shot behind the arc. Like, I felt very happy with that.
Yeah, I think some players were... I don't know if it was players, actually. I can't remember if it was a player or a coach, but someone said that his play style really reminds them of Kawhi Leonard's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the big thing.
And if he ends up being a player like that, let me tell you, I'll definitely be a happy camper. I won't have any complaints because I love watching Kawhi play too because I think his game is it's reminiscent of 2000s and late 90s basketball.
Right.
And I really like watching that era. And he still has all the tools to fit in with this era. And so
go Patrick Williams.
Yeah, so I hope it works out for him. But yeah, I mean, I think that'll be it for today. Maybe next time we'll talk about the Bears.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I don't know what next time will be. I think we're gonna do it like one episode a week so far. Does that seem about right for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, just one episode a week. We'll just talk about what we're interested in. Obviously, we're big Chicago fans, so we are gonna talk a lot about Chicago sports and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll try to find a set date for these in the future, and to make it easier for you guys to listen. But for right now, we're still trying to figure it all out. We'll find it. We'll have a name soon too, so it's easier for you to remember. All right, but thanks for listening.
Signing off.